the plenary on reconciliation and with wetlands. And so is anyone, before we open up to the floor, to ask any questions of the presenters, if anyone's got any specific questions that they wanted answered by any of the presenters that are here sitting in front of us today? Oh, Tom's got a question. Hang on, Tom, you need to wait for the... No, not that one. Not that one. It's coming. There you go.
all these rules. This question to all of you. You're all doing brilliant things. How come we're not working together? How come collectively, or better yet, how can we work together? If we don't get united, it's the old standard divide and conquer. I see it in the environmental movement up and down the river. I see it in the Aboriginal movement. I'd like your ideas of how we can come together and cooperate, work forward together.
We are today, aren't we? We are today.
We are? Oh, no, I'm not allowed to do that.
We are today. We are coming together today. It's interesting because I'm part of this forum that starts at 6:30 in the morning, so I'll have to be up for it. But because I've still got a lot of links with Pacifica, and this is a forum for Pacifica, and there's a Fijian word called talanoa, and talanoa means everybody come together and it's the same as yarning. It's coming together and everyone is telling their own story, and that story, you put all the pieces together and you create something new. And that's what we've been doing here today, isn't it, really? So it's what comes next that's the important thing, asking the question, okay, now we're together, what do we do next? Can we have a resolution from today that we can carry on with?
When I look at this row of people, I can fortunately say that I'm already working with all of them, or have been for the last few years, which is a really lovely thing for me to be able to reflect on. And the other thing that is very strong for me here is that we have our Nyunga people here, Vanessa and Gail. We have Robin, who's Wiradjuri, and from the East Coast. And in this row of people, I think the rest of us are from somewhere else. You know, we are from somewhere else, and we've come here. You know, Christina's from Portugal, and maybe she doesn't mind me saying that she listened about Wajak country and Nyunga country on the radio in Portugal and went, my God, I have to go there. You know, I've lived here and come back here and come back here and come back here 3 times, and now I've lived here longer than from where I'm from. So I think the place plays a very good role in telling us all what to do, and maybe we're doing that.
Sorry. I'd like to expand on that. I'm Jan from Yelagonga Regional Park. We are constantly trying to form a partnership with Aboriginal people from our Yelagonga region to work together to achieve the aims of both cultures. We would like to form a relationship. We would love to have people come. We don't have the draw of a conference. We do not have the draw of a study at a university. So what can a very, very small, we've only got 300 volunteers. We've only got 300 volunteers, but 40 of those are regulars. How do we get on, and how do we learn, and how do we work together for our patch of country?
Hi, I just would like to say that I can relate with that question. Why are we not working together more? I mean, I really appreciated Vanessa's point. We're working together, and I'm so appreciative of that work, you know, and I feel the same. I'm appreciative of every example that comes through, that this is it, this is what it is, and this is what could be more. But also, and I think when we put this story together for this presentation, it sort of came on the back of having different conversations about restoration, revegetation, land care, and sometimes feeling within the non-Aboriginal population still a lot of lack of awareness about that past, you know, lack of awareness of the trauma and the hurt that is still, you know, within the community, and lack of awareness of the importance of actually acknowledging that in a truthful way so that we can all move forward. You know, and I see that, I see prejudice. I see people that are not willing to wait it's all relationships. You know, when I met my partner, there's a spark, but then you have to work it through. It's all about relationships. It's about having patience. If you're from a partnership as myself and my partner from different cultures, you have to work it through too. You know, culture will come in the way of... so I think, you know, sometimes the frames of our Western society are ones related with funding, with timing, with 3 years, 2 years, 5 years of milestones of this. It's, you know, it gets in the way of actually, you know, coming together. We, in our workshops, we've really had a lot of people saying we want to work together more with land care groups. They come for us, they come to us to get a lot of support, and then they don't come again. You know, like, so this is telling that, hey, we need to work it out better. And the only way really is patience, understanding, and acknowledgement of that hurt, of that past, that is still affecting a lot of people today. So that's my...
Yeah, I just wanted to say that my dad, Albert Corona, had a really good relationship with the Blackadder Catchment Group in Midland, and the relationship that he had with Phil Cohen was Cloran was really good, and Dad had sort of adopted Phil, you know, as a son, and Phil was always available to have conversations with my dad and rang him every night, and they just had the most best relationship. And Phil took time to assist him with heritage issues, letters and stuff like that. So their relationship, you know, they spent a lot of time together working on issues to do with the waterways and the land. So I think if you're committed to you know, establishing a relationship with a traditional owner and working with, or even Aboriginal people that are living on the land, I think it is possible. But it is like what Christina's saying, it is a relationship that you have to be committed to and make it sustainable, and you have to work out the intentions for that relationship, why you want that relationship, and yeah, not let prejudice get in the way, or racism, and you know, just work on things, and don't be disappointed when things don't work, because I think that's part of relationships too, because not every time things are going to be working smoothly. And so yeah, it is possible, and my father demonstrated that time and time again with the non-Indigenous community that he worked with across the country.
I think I need to remind some people here that Aboriginal people have been exploited forever. So yes, you really do want to come and get what we know, but then so what? What do you bring back? You need to give before you get. And the good way to do that is to work with our children first. Share your deep science knowledge with our kids and watch how they view the world with new knowledge. Form that relationship first, and then they'll begin to work with you, and they will bring older family members along, because we don't just hand our kids over, we want to be there too, having fun. So don't be too serious about things, but really give first, and then you get.
Yeah, I was just going to probably say, just it's great. I think totally agree with Gail and Vanessa, and but the importance of when it comes to specific things, I think one thing there needs to be an openness about I guess the process. It needs to be open and adaptive. It needs to be when things are too closed, it's not going to work, because then there's only one perspective coming in. So it needs, and I think the other thing too, I think it's really important is, there's the community stuff that Vanessa's talking about, and Phil had an amazing relationship with Vanessa's dad, as he said, but over many years. But if it's specific projects, there needs to be resourcing. It needs to be resourced properly for Aboriginal people to be able to use their intellectual property in, for the benefit of their family and their community. And that there's different ways of doing that, but one of the ways is for them to drive an income and to live and to make use of that knowledge in that way. And I think that that's another thing that really needs to be understood, I think.
Has anyone else got any other questions that they would like to ask any of the speakers? Yep, up the back here.
Yeah, hi, it's Kath Broderick, and I'm particularly interested in the, most of you have referred to governments or local government, and thanks, Robin, for your reference to local government as a powerful potential engagement partner. And so we've got lots of people in the room from various types of government, local government, state government, but I wondered if anyone had some ideas about where we might be pointed towards really excellent practice by governments, by local governments or state governments in other jurisdictions or even other countries, where we could then at least take some lessons from, because we're talking about codifying culture into ways that can then be implemented in policies and programs. There has to be a meeting of the two somewhere. Not that you don't want to distill culture into some tiny bubble, but there is a process where that has to happen somehow. So I guess I'm really interested in how are there some great examples that we could look to and learn from?
Well, I've get a lot from reading Anne Paulina's work from the Kimberley. So a Ninkana researcher, 2 PhDs, and amazing community connections. And she's writing on river management. So to read her work on her advocacy for the Maiwarra Fitzroy River, I find really useful. I know Pierre's written with Anne recently around sustainability education, and there's some really good ideas and with Sandra Willerton as well. So that I found that to be a really useful set of readings around understanding these, these principles. But again, I think important, as I said in the talk, that was grounded in the Kimberley. So, it's important to recognise the diversity of Aboriginal cultures across Australia. Anyone else like to add? Yep.
Can we talk more about, really appreciate there's a lot of expertise about the culture, and a couple of people have referred to Dr. Paulina's work and some of the excellent work we've heard about today. But I guess I was looking more from a government perspective. Like, I do work as a consultant, but I work for local and state governments and NRM regions and other organisations who may wish to try and do better. So what I'm asking for is, are there some models or jurisdictions or places where we could look to get some guidance on how we could do much better than we're doing?
Well, I think there is models out there in Perth. I mean, if you look at our Connecting to Rivers project, The people that we're engaging with is the City of Swan. Those relationships I've had for decades. I'm also riding on the back of my father's work in the country, so it's generations of good relationships and sustainable relationships, and I think that's the key to anything, and that is the model. The model is to respect one another, be committed to actually engaging with Aboriginal people. Doesn't matter what industry you come from, government or non-government, there has to be a commitment, even to the workers that work for government, because there is good national ethics of how to engage with Aboriginal people in this country in a respectful way, and I think we can follow those guidelines, and the model is there. It's about us implementing it, and in our rivers research we have been doing that, and an example is we've actually invited the City of Swan to engage in our yarning sessions with traditional owners, so they get the opportunity to come into that room with us while we're sitting with traditional owners, and they're engaged in meeting them and getting to know them. So that's the sort of stuff that we're doing in the City of Swan.
I'll just wait for the panel. Does anyone else on the panel say? Yep.
I just would like to add that I think local governments are incredibly well positioned to lead the way in terms of developing models of good work, of relationships, persevering through relationships, through projects that can become, models, model for, how we do development, restoration, placemaking. And I think, if we looked carefully enough, there's probably a lot of good examples across the metropolitan area of really good examples of proper, meaningful community engagement and, working together towards a common aim, in a co-designed way. I have great faith I sort of hope that this greater interest from and support, financial support from federal government across multiple programs, the National Environmental Science Program, so many, natural hazard mitigation, and there's so much out there in terms of funding that is permeable to and supportive of First Nations engagement, meaningful, across research, across. Again, I hope that also creates some models of and standard for how we do things and really promotes that work. From the perspective of the National Environmental Science Program, I was so fortunate. I was supported to meet people, to learn, we had an incredible Indigenous advisory group. People need cultural training. People need support to go through these things, and so we need we need that supportive network for even things to spark and come together, and for that, I think the federal government, there's definitely a shift in appreciation of actually having that meaningful engagement.
Sorry, Christina, I wanted to comment on the promotion of good case studies. So I'm from the WA Local Government Association, and every year since 2017 we've organised conferences on Aboriginal engagement and reconciliation in conjunction with our Aboriginal network in local government, and it's a great opportunity to share those great collaborative relationships that are leading to positive outcomes in a number of areas. So one is caring for country, but we also look at closing the gap, different engagement methods, truth-telling. There's a whole range of topic streams that we have. And I think in the sector, the goodwill and want to do better is reflected in the numbers that just grow each year. So it started with 100 people in 2017, went up to 300 people last year. And this is local government CEOs, elected members, directors, managers, on-ground officers. So it engages everyone. And we were lucky to have Gail and Christina attend and present last year on the project they talked about today. But I think it's there's a lot of positive work happening, and we're wanting to promote that and share it so that other local government organisations can learn from, I guess, proactive approaches. And I'd also like to just, Coburn as well has organised Aboriginal engagement and reconciliation conferences, so it's happening throughout the sector, not just with a peak body.
Hang on, I think one of the panellists wanted to say something, or are you okay?
Thank you so much for that. That's a great point with the local government, so proactive on that front. And perhaps, it's something that state and local government can talk together more to build those networks. But I was just going to, it's not an insubstantial question in terms of how some of the methods and how to engage better from the prior question, all about relationships, but not everybody has the chance to have access to those relationships, at least not early on or straight away, and perhaps some help guidelines. There's very theoretical but also practical guidelines, things like the IACCIS protocol, might be familiar with, as latest one I think 2020, and that's the Australian Aboriginal and Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander guidelines, national guidelines around engagement in research and projects working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So that's a really great basis to start from. In the absence of immediate personal relationships, hopefully they flow from that too.
We've got a question up the back here.
Look, I think in answer to what Tom put forward earlier, we're mostly ground up people here. I mean, there's plenty of government people, state, local, and no doubt federal here. But maybe it's time that we did a map of all the organisations, the wetland organisations, the friends groups, the land care groups, the catchment management groups. And if that was mapped out, then our little bit, we'd be able to see who was around us. And then if that can be extended up to, the academic projects that are going on, because unless you come here, you don't know about them. You don't read them in the West. And if there's some coordination leadership role, dare I say, that this conference could initiate, so that we know how to contact each other and even know that they're out there.
Tom up the front, Katie, would like to say something.
Thanks, Paul. One of the things I wanted to answer the question in the back, probably the best example in the last decade was coordinated through the University of Western Australia on a project called Water Sensitive Cities. It was a CRC 10-year program where they brought together really people from all around Australia to develop strategies on water sensitive cities. And if you read that report, you will realize the value and the opportunities of bringing everyone together. That's real leadership. Now, we are in communication with UWA, and there certainly is a strong movement now to not do a national water sensitive cities, but do a statewide water sensitive program. And that's gaining momentum, working with a whole number of players, but that's bringing everyone together. Because when you look at it, every one of our waterways is currently unsustainable. Everyone. Every single waterway in the state is dying. So we collectively have to do something, and that's a very good model to use. And it's a model where UWA has the credibility, or any university, bringing government together. So it's not government-led, it's people-led, working with the tertiary sector. And that's the model that we're trying to develop now.
Just following on from Tom, really, I guess Western Australia, it is a bit to do with the tyranny of distance. Like, the project I was talking about is Albury Wodonga. They have a Koori interagency network meeting every month for as long as I can remember. That brings together any university projects that are happening, all the education organisations, the health organisations, everybody. It brings together everybody in any of the sectors. The AECG, which is the Aboriginal Education Consultative Group. I've worked in other places too that are regional places. And these sorts of questions aren't so difficult. We've got here a massive city. And I think that's kind of like one of the challenges is how do you bring together such a big population the way that somewhere like Albury-Wodonga can do it so easily, or somewhere like Toowoomba. You know, I used to work in Toowoomba, there was the same thing there. Regular meetings. You always knew what everybody else was doing because it wasn't so difficult to get around everybody. So I guess that's the challenge, is finding a conduit whereby all of these different groups who all feel marginalised at the moment, particularly traditional owners, how do you bring traditional owners into the tent so they feel equal? You know, that's kind of part of the dilemma and probably part of what resonates with your question.
Yeah, sorry, one final thing.
Hang on, Tom. You're taking up too much airspace. No, hang on. This question here, this lady who wanted to ask a question. Then you can go after that, Tom.
Yeah, it's not so much a question, it's more of the, you're all coming together and supporting the reconciliation and all this and that. But what's really important to Aboriginal people is that you get the traditional owners. Okay, and to quote my dad, you may be a traditional owner, and he's a Whadjuk Balladong elder. He grew up in the Balladong area, so he knows the stories there that relate to that area. Not so sure about the Whadjuk area, so he leaves that to the people like Vanessa and others on the River Project. They have the stories for the Midland area, and I guess it's important that that you understand the importance of getting the traditional owners who have the stories for those areas.
Yeah. You okay, Tom? Or?
Well, I will close with one final thing. In that water-sensitive cities, one of the outcomes is the city of Melbourne came together and developed a program. At the moment, there are 42 agencies that have legal jurisdiction over the Swan and Canning River. 42, 3 ministers. Melbourne wasn't that different. Out of that water-sensitive cities program, there's now 1 minister, 1 agency. And that agency is supported statutorily by an Aboriginal elder group. So these, if you wanted examples of change, these things can work. We just have a little bit more challenge in WA. And we'll get there.
You're talking about a state where Framlingham and Lake Tyers were handed back to Aboriginal people in 1972 before there was any Land Rights Act. You're talking about a much more progressive state than Western Australia.
Yeah. Is that, well, we're actually, we're right on time, ready for light refreshments outside. So I want everyone to really thank the speakers from this afternoon for the great papers that they've given, and we hope to see many more sessions like this in the future Wetlands Conference, and also more connections made between researchers and Indigenous people, and co-design of projects.